to another movie Reedview from me, Cody Reed. This one is for The Theory of Everything. It's directed by James Marsh, and it's a biopic about Stephen Hawking and his wife Jane. And so those main stars are Eddie Redmayne and Felicity Jones, along with Charlie Cox, who plays a side character, Jonathan, that also has a major role in the movie. And so this story really focuses on Stephen Hawking and his wife Jane. Looking at some of the trailers and maybe some of the previews, you might think it focuses more on Stephen Hawking, which it does, but it actually has a lot to do with his wife Jane as well, which is something that I was surprised when watching the movie. It focuses on these two, their love for each other and how they first meet, and it kind of goes through their stages of life. So you see them as they meet, you see it as Stephen Hawking, played by Eddie Redmayne, and he goes through some of his Lou Gehrig's disease and the challenges that he has to go through with that, along with the support from Jane that she gives him. And so you see them working together at times, and you see them as they first get married and then later on in their later years. And it really is a great story. It's a pretty standard biopic, if you know about those, just kind of telling the story of these two, and especially Stephen Hawking and the things that he had to go through. So it just kind of tells their story, kind of their ups and downs a lot, and that's one of the things that I liked. I was wondering how much they might show of their actual challenges or some of the things that they had to go through, and it actually does show some of those. There are a lot of the like high points, when they're strong together and they have that strong relationship. But of course, with Stephen Hawking and his disease, that they are going to go through a lot. And so Eddie Redmayne, he does a fantastic job in this role. You see him as like some of the shots they do with his legs and the way he walks, and then it slowly develops and gets worse and worse, and so you really get to see that in the movie, and he does a great job portraying that and showing the emotion of Stephen Hawking just through his face and some of his facial expressions, as well as the humor that Stephen Hawking has. Felicity Jones does a great job as well as his wife. I wasn't expecting to really love her role as much because I heard so much about Eddie Redmayne playing Stephen Hawking, but she does a great job. Both of them, I think, should be nominated for Best Actor and Actress for Oscars because they both did a great job. I mean, she had to go through a lot, the actual wife of Stephen Hawking, Jane, did, and so Felicity Jones shows that emotion in the movie, having to deal with Stephen and the things that they have to go through, so I think that was great as well. Like I mentioned, it's really their story. You might think it's more of Stephen's, but it's really their story. The tagline for the poster actually says the incredible story of Jane and Stephen Hawking. They even mention her first. And then it talks about how his mind changed the world and her love for him, changed his life. So it really has to do with both of them. They both do a fantastic job acting. And the cinematography is really great too. It has that old feeling to it. It kind of looks like it's several decades ago, whether it's like the 60s or 50s, and back then there's even some shots in the movie that kind of look like it's their old videotapes, but it's actually with the actors in it instead of the real people. And so you have them, and it really looks great, and it has that kind of like glowy feely to it. It's hard to describe, but that's something that I really liked in the movie as well. Like I mentioned, it's just a standard biopic. It really tells their story and what they had to go through, and just kind of telling it pretty simply, so not much to it, except it did have a lot of emotion to that. So if you are on the fence for seeing this, go see it if you love biopics, if you really want to know more about Stephen Hawking and his wife and the things they had to go through, if you like love stories and some of those kind of things. I mean, if you're not really a fan of those biopics or kind of slower paced stories, because it's not a blockbuster really, so if those aren't really your forte, then maybe skip out on it. But if you do love Stephen Hawking and biopics, I say go see this. I thought it was really great again. 4 out of 5 stars would be in my opinion. A lot of the acting was great, the cinematography like I mentioned, and the relationship between the two actors were fantastic. Have you seen it? What did you think? Leave a comment below and like this video if you did like it. Please subscribe though to my movie reviews channel for any other reviews, and you can get updates on those. And then lastly, follow me at Facebook and Twitter at Movie Reedviews for any movie news that I'll post on there, so you can hear about that right away. And send me a question at my Gmail account, moviereedviews@gmail, and I'll answer your questions if you have any. Thanks so much, and happy viewing.
Ah yes, Stephen Hawking was a great man. But I, Sean Connery, am also a great man. I am also very sexy. He had a great mind, but I have a great body. Anyways, the movie, I thought, was pretty good. So I'll give it 6 out of 9 suit and ties.